Okay, welcome everyone. So nice to see so many new and recurring faces. So this lady goes to the Himalayan, approaches the monastery and says, "I want to speak with the guru." I say, "Well, the guru is in the mountain. He's meditating already for a couple of years. Can I just like allow you to disturb it?" So she's insisting, "I need to meet him. I need to meet him." After insisting, they're like, "Okay, we're gonna go with you to the guru, but he's on the top of the mountain, and you could only say to him 8 words, not more than 8 words. It's the only thing allowed to talk to him, and then you have to turn away and come back. If you agree with that, we'll go with you." Okay, fine. They climb up the mountain, they go all the way up, and they see this guy in his robes, in his orange robe, is sitting and meditating, and this lady goes to him and says, "Michael, it's Mom. Enough already. Come back home." And this joke, I wrote it down. I'm like, I need to make sure that it's.
Oh, that's funny. That's like 8 words.
Across it. I was like, no, it's too many words, not 8. So anyway, so the point is of this course at least is that a lot of times we have, or let me ask you, when you think about meditation, do you connect it at all with your Jewish experience growing up? No. Where do you imagine meditation belonging?
I mean, I've always meditated in yoga studios or like in any sort of like Eastern like environment.
Culture.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. But you saw like meditation as something that is organically Jewish?
I've seen books that say that it is,
but you haven't seen it
I
around.
haven't experienced it or interacted with it.
Okay, great. So hopefully one of the points of this class is in this what we're going to explore now. We're not going to meditate, so don't worry. We're not going to. There's candles, but this is just for ambience. We're not going to meditate. What we're going to do is learn about meditation, and then for you to empower and to hopefully come out empowered to know how to apply meditation and how to tap into the meditation. So. In the 60s and 70s, meditation was very popularized in America. A lot of young people were, going to the East and learning about meditation and getting into it. And then they came back to America with all this knowledge, and it started being very popular here as well. And there was a lot of benefits. There was a lot of, it's good.
I think it's facing me. As I see
I also wondered that. I'm sorry. After you put it back down, it is facing him.
Okay, let's continue.
Like, is it supposed to show you?
Like those videos of the guy like making a film of whatever, and then the actual video is his face.
I'm not sure how to start it.
This is how
It was right when you put it down the first time. That's all I know.
Let me see. This is actually a new app that I'm using.
Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt because you were in like flow, but
Me either. And I also was like, maybe my vision's not working.
Well, whatever. We'll just keep it like this. Okay, now it's facing me. So in the 60s and 70s, suddenly meditation started becoming something big. Yoga started picking up in America, and it was challenging for the Jewish community. Specifically, the Rebbe, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, saw this practice as something challenging or in opposing the Jewish way of life. The culture and the meditations that they got was from the Far East. And in the Far East, it's almost only like one of the last remaining idol worshipping in this world. They have a Buddha, and they have like their figures and their the statues that they worship. We had the Greeks that they did that, the Romans did that, they had their gods and the demigods, but that almost like fell away from society. Nowadays we really have the Muslim world, we have the Christian world, and the Jewish world, and the Far East world. And the most challenging is the Far East, because a lot of their elements have a lot of idol worshipping within those cultures and within those disciplines. So suddenly you had all this, young people coming back and adopting these disciplines, and the Rebbe wanted to make sure that you could have the meditation and the benefits of meditation, because at the end of the day, they were preaching, and till today we have all those benefits that come with meditation, but without the component of idol worshiping. So the Rebbe wanted to kind of like reshape or refocus where meditation is going in the Jewish world, specifically here in America, where the American Jews, or how American Jews are adopting the meditation. So he entrusted a psychologist to create a curriculum and to kind of like set a framework to be able to use the techniques of meditation without having the components or the elements of idol worshiping. At the time was very controversial. All the yoga and all the meditation in the 60s and 70s was banned in Israel. A lot of the rabbis in Israel wrote against it, but it's totally banned. You cannot use it. Nowadays, that changed a lot and shifted a lot. Not only because of the curriculum that the medical society created, that kind of like was taking away the elements of idol worshiping, but also because time or evolution, the meditation now that it's adopted when you go to yoga, when you do like regular things, or I would say the most popular studios, yoga studios or breathing studios, they are natural. They're natural meditations, and there's no elements or components of any idol worshiping in it. So there's like at the end of the day, there's like three qualities of meditation. There is a meditation with the quality of being impure, and that's the one comes from the Far East, and we are totally not addressing that side. We're not going to see at all or discuss the differences. We're not delving into it. There is the neutral type of meditation that, although we're not going to focus on that, but we are going to have a lot of the benefits and side effects of Jewish meditation that also creates benefits in the neutral meditation, or in the medical meditation, something that brings benefits to the people, psychological benefits or emotional benefits. And then there is the Jewish meditation, which is a holy type of meditation. That's the meditation that is original and is organic to the Jewish people since the times of giving the Torah, or way before the times of the giving of the Torah. There's this tradition of having a Jewish meditation within Jewish people, and that's hopefully where we're going to focus. And we're going to see what organically belongs to us, and what not only we are allowed to meditate, but what we should be meditating and connecting as Jews. So we'll start with number one. I'm sorry, do you want to read? Lesson number 1, page 1, I would say.
Yeah, I want to get there.
Actually, sorry, before we start, there is an interesting, I have it up here at the source, there's a very interesting flow of events or ways that, there's a very interesting verse that I'm going to read to you, and that will kind of like bring a little bit of understanding on the Far East meditations, and the reason why a lot of Jews are, as Michael, are attracted to that type of meditation. So this is the type. This is the portion where the Torah is describing Abraham's life, and towards the end of Abraham's life, it says like this: Abraham gave all that he owned to Isaac. In other words, he gave everything, his physical possessions and his legacy, gave it to Isaac. And then continues saying that Abraham came to the sons of Hagar, the concubine. So after Sarah had Abraham had his wife, who was Sarah. After Sarah passed away, he married a second wife, and he had more children. But we don't know anything about these children. We know like Abraham had Isaac, and Isaac had Jacob. But Abraham actually had more children besides Isaac. But nevertheless, the legacy of Abraham and the name of Abraham didn't continue with any of the other ones. It says the verse number 6 is like this: Abraham gave to the sons of Hagar, the concubine, who Abraham had taken, all the gifts, and he sent them eastwards to the eastern land away from his son Isaac. So basically, the rest of his kids, he gave them gifts and sent them to the east. What are these gifts that he gave them? So Rashi explains, Rashi is one of the main commentaries, he says that he gave them spiritual powers, impure powers he gave them. So in other words, he gave them some sort of whatever energy or power that it belonged to them. He taught them, and he gave that. He passed down that energy to those children, and then he sent them away to be away from Isaac. So, it doesn't say anymore. We don't have any moral lineage of where this kids ended up, but we know that now in the Far East you have all these religions and all this type of meditations and disciplines that a lot of Jews are attracted to, and it will make sense because this has source in Judaism. It has a source in Abraham, which Abraham is the one who kind of like gave away or gave over these teachings to them. Although it doesn't belong to us as Jews, but nevertheless, there's some connection. That's why there's a lot of Jews. One of the explanations why a lot of Jews are attracted to to those type of meditations, specifically in the 60s and 70s. Okay. Lesson number 1. You want to start?
Sure. Often associated with other religions, meditation is an authentic Jewish practice that plays a key role in Jewish life and spirituality. This lesson delves into the foundational underpinnings of Jewish meditation to discover how it can be harnessed as a mindfulness practice to overcome negative feelings and produce positive ones. Taking this a step further, it promotes the power of positive meditation to shape reality.
Great. So we'll take it a step further. Not only the meditating or the meditation, how it affects us, like inside our own psyche and our own body and our own emotions, but how it actually meditation affects our outside, which a lot of people call that manifesting or other words. But we'll see if that has at all place in Jewish life, and how we could use or tap into that energy. Okay, so page number 2. Do you want to read?
Yeah. The term meditation has many meanings, but in this course it is defined in its broad sense of the deliberate focus of one's mind to achieve a desired result. Specifically, this study explores the uniquely Jewish role of meditation in Jewish life and in the practice of Judaism.
Yeah, so this is not meditation for the purpose of meditation, but this meditation, when we talk about meditation, is for an outcome. We meditate in order for an outcome. Now, exercise number 1. Record 3 things you hope to gain through this study. You can write it down. You can think about it. There's pens right next to you. And we kind of like did the exercise, the second exercise. Okay, I'll give you 30 seconds to write 3 things. Okay. If you guys don't mind sharing, maybe 1 or 2. Maybe 1. Just one short one. What do you do? One that you want to share?
I think for me, I typically manage like what's going on in my head by being active and being outside. And right now, I'm like I can't really do those things as well. So I've been craving like another tool to manage those things. So
Why can't you do that?
well, it's just
The weather?
cold and dark, so it's not as accessible.
Okay.
But in general, yeah, just wanting another tool to manage my headspace that's not physical.
Great. What about you, Zach?
Focus.
Okay.
Hella ADD. So having some more focus in my life would probably make me more productive, more happy.
I wrote mindfulness practices, like to help with being calm and anxiety and stress.
Okay.
I wrote actually learning to meditate. I feel like I also have undiagnosed ADHD, and so just being able to learn how to rest would be nice.
Yeah, I put be more present in daily life because I feel like I'm just constantly like going from one thing to the next, like going through the motions and just finding a practice to help me kind of like
Great.
be here.
This is amazing. All of these things are going to be addressed at different levels, times directly, at times this is going to be a side effect of a different type of Jewish meditation. And we're going to see, soon we're going to see the specific 3 ones. But all of this are the benefits that will come with meditating. I think meditating nowadays is not, kind of got lost in society, the ability to meditate. Interestingly enough, the Rebbe pushed for public schools to have a minute of silence. So they were not going to allow prayers in school. But the Rebbe was pushing, don't do prayers, just allow a minute of silence. Just allow to create a space for kids to think about something that, is greater than them. It's not going to happen the first day. It's not going to happen the second day. But if you create that space where kids have to like suddenly be bored and be uncomfortable being bored, the mind might travel far further than just whatever is in their immediate surrounding. So the Rebbe really pushed for a minute of silence to happen, at least to introduce in society. Maybe not the discipline of meditation, but at least the discipline of creating space to be bored. Sadly, nowadays it's like we don't allow our minds to be 1 minute bored. Like soon as we're whatever it is, like, we take out our phones, like Apple Watch, like we have all these distractions that we kind of like lost the ability to meditate and to kind of like refocus, reshape, or recenter that ability that we have. It's like someone who has a hand and has never used it because he didn't have the need to. We have brains and we have cognitive capacities, but we kind of like don't develop it. So hopefully this course will have that. Will have all those benefits, but in different levels or different stages of Jewish meditation. Great. Then the exercise number 2, in your mind's eye, envision a person meditating. Now sketch that image on paper. Or if you want, you could sketch it. If not. But I think we mentioned that already before, that it's kind of like someone with orange robes and, in the Himalayan. And that's where meditation belongs. It doesn't belong in the middle of Atlanta and in the workplace or, in our daily life. So this ideas or these beliefs hopefully will be broken and will be introduced to what meditation is really all about. Okay, Laura, you want to read?
Yeah.
Page number 3, yes.
Meditation is organic to Judaism, serving a sizable role in Jewish life and practice. It can be traced back to the patriarchs of our people and religion, who spent most of their days in meditation, and it is ritualized in Judaism as part of the formal practice of daily prayer. In addition, meditation appears in multiple forms to fill a variety of roles in Jewish life.
And read text number 1.
Career meditators. Rabbi Eliyahu Hakohem, skip. The patriarchs closed to be shepherds so that they could be alone in the wilderness where the air is clean and pure and they would be far from other people for the sake of secluding themselves in divine meditation. I could try the Hebrew, but
No need.
That. Okay.
Yes, this is great. I'll open a different tab over here and then I'll bring it back. So you guys know the story of this past few weeks we've been reading about the story of Joseph and his brothers. Yeah, Joseph, he was sold by his brothers, and then he was sold to Egypt. He became the vice president, the viceroy of Egypt, and eventually saved the whole humanity, because basically humanity was dying. It was a famine, and he was the only one who had. Egypt was the only one who had food, and they basically became superpower because everyone gave their wealth to Egypt. But in that story, in the prophets, there's a line that says like this. God says that for the 3 cardinal sins, he forgives, which the cardinal sins are idol worshipping, murder, and adultery. Like, God is even able to forgive for those sins, but for the sin of selling shoes, he doesn't forgive. Anyone know of a sin of selling shoes? No? This is not like a Black Friday thing. So the commentaries explain that what it's referring to is to Joseph's brothers. You see, what Joseph's brothers did with the money was that they bought shoes. Now, like, that's what the commentaries say. Now the question is, like, why do we need to know this information? Like, I'm sure that there's so many things that happen in their life, but like, even in Moses' life, we kind of like know Moses, started knowing Moses when he was 80 years old. When he was a newborn, and then when he was a teenager or in his 20s, a young adult, and then again when he was 80. You know, there's like 50 years, 60 years over there that the Torah doesn't relate anything about Moses. You know, he's not. It's not relevant to us. But nevertheless, there was a point of saying, of the prophet mentioning that about selling shoes, and so start analyzing this, and basically the bottom line is that Joseph's brothers, after they sold him, what they did with the money is that they bought shoes. This is not just to say like where the money go, but it's more to say it's giving an insight in the philosophical argument that Joseph had with his brothers. Joseph had an argument of saying, you could be a holy person, you could be a Jew, you could be connected to God, even though you are involved, you are included and engaging in the world. That was his argument. His brothers said, no way you could be so down to earth and being a spiritual person. It actually will hurt you if you're down to earth. You need to have at least something dividing. You need to have a certain distance. You cannot walk on the street without shoes. I mean, you could, but you make it hurt. So wearing shoes provides that protection. So Joseph's brothers was basically buying shoes means that they had the philosophical approach of saying, if you want to be a holy person, you cannot involve yourself in society. And nevertheless, you cannot even, become someone who's in such a high position of power. That will corrupt you for sure. You'll get damaged. Joseph, on the other hand, was like, no, you could be a holy person, you could be straight and moral, even in that level of power and that level of society involvement. And that's the meaning of those two of the pair of shoes that they bought with the money. It's the philosophical debate that you have to be secluded. That explains also the inner meaning when they came and they didn't recognize Joseph. Some people explain, literally, he was a teenager when they sold him. He was 17 years old, and now he's in his 30s. So, someone from 17 to 30, you don't recognize him. But what the commentary says, like, no, what they didn't recognize is the ability that he had to be so involved and not damaged. It was like, if you want to be this involved, you have to be damaged. They weren't able to recognize Joseph as he himself being innocent. So that's why Joseph, when he revealed himself, says, I'm Joseph. I'm the same person who was with my father. Is my father still alive? I never lost that innocence, even though I now became in a position of total power over almost the whole entire world. And those two approaches was really the difference between the rest of the brothers and Joseph. Now, on that line, the rest of the brothers spent most of the time meditating. They were shepherds because they wanted to be connected and they wanted to be free and not having the burden of taking care of things. And while you're a shepherd, it's a really easy job. You just have to be there and you have the free time to meditate. So even before the Torah was given to us, even from the times of our forefathers, already saw that meditation, specifically Jewish way of meditation, was already a big part of Jewish life. How does that translate to us nowadays? Because from my understanding, none of you are shepherds, right? No, you work at shepherds, but it's the closest we get to that. And that is with tefillah. Tefillah is prayer. Prayer is kind of like became this boring service that we come and we say a few songs and we have to read through it and finally over. Finally we go to Kiddush now and go to eat. But really the time of meditation in Jewish life is the time of prayer. When we go to shul, it's not only we go to say a lip service and to just say the words and move on, but it's actually the time where we close, like at the beginning of the day, where we're like set the tone or create that space for having this type of meditations. We're going to learn what exactly is. But how is it practical in our Jewish life? Well, going to shul, going to saying the morning prayers. And for that we have at the end of this class, we have the morning prayers. And it's starting on page 29, that after the class you could take this home, of course, and read it through yourself and go through it and see all the meditations that we create at the beginning of the day. So tefillah, prayer, would be the modern time or the modern day of being a shepherd. When you close yourself and try to take that space and time and you focus on the meditation. So page number 4. We're going to see from the word tefillah in Hebrew. Maybe you guys speak Hebrew? Read Hebrew?
Yeah,
Teeny bit.
Okay. So there's one word by the orange, by the yellow square. It's tefillah. It's called prayer. Now, in Hebrew, all the words in Hebrew is called the Holy Tongue. The reason for Hebrew being the Holy Tongue is not only because it's the language that God used to give the word the Torah, but it's actually a language that it's very different from all other languages, in the sense that all other languages, the words that were chosen were not really intentional. And what I mean with that is that this is called a paper, and we all agree that this is a paper. If from now on we decided that we'll call this metal, and the whole society will decide that this is metal, we can move on. I don't think there's major problems. Now in Hebrew, the word itself defines what you're talking about. So in the Hebrew wording, we find the definition of the item, not only the definition of the item, but what's the kind of like the giving energy and what's the item about. So tefillah, we translate as prayer, or the classical example that they bring for this idea is Torah. Torah, we translate it in English as, what's the Torah? Laws, Bible. That's like common translation, right? But Torah really comes from the word Mora. What's a Mora?
Teacher.
A teacher. Because the Torah really is not a Bible. Bible is something that sounds like archaic and old, belongs in a bookshelf somewhere with dust. But a Mora, a teacher, is someone who comes every day and teaches you and guides you. So really the Torah, the word Torah is like a Mora, because the definition of Torah is a guide. So we're going to see how in prayer, the word tefillah is actually the idea of meditating or connecting. And we will see it from two different verses or sources. We'll see how the word tefillah aligns with this concept of meditation. So the first one that we have is on the right side. It says, Hatofel kli cheres. This is from the Mishnah. Mishnah is the first book or the first compilement, if that's even a word, of Jewish laws. And it's talking about one who glues an earthenware vessel. So suddenly tofel and tefillah, that they have the same sounding and the same kind of like meaning and the same wording. Tefillah is actually cementing and gluing and connecting to an idea. So prayer now cease to be something that is lip service or something that we just say to something that we actually connect with. When we go to prayer services, when we go to minyan, when we go to shul, it's not about just reading along and reading through. Actually, that's the disadvantage of most religious people or people who grew up going to shul. That kind of like, reading through became part of the schedule. They show up and they just read through without having any of the intention that really belongs in the tefillah, because tefillah is all about connecting and is all about becoming more cemented with that idea. So that's one place that we see what that tefillah is about: meditation and praying and connection. Now, the second part we see is from Samuel and says, if one commits a crime against another, he will be judged by a judge. In other words, the judgment is the ability to discern and to really break down and to understand something, a concept or a situation. That is the idea of ufilelo. So we see that tefillah, also the same wording as ufilelo, is the idea of kind of like not just taking the way something comes to you and reacting to it, but actually breaking it down and putting the intention and being mindful for it. So that is, we see number one, we see from the times of the forefathers how meditation is something that belongs inherently or organically with Jewish life. We see that it belongs in shul. Shul is not really about just reading through, but it's mostly about connecting and cementing that, creating that connection. And text number 2, we'll see that this is not only, we'll see it in the wording of tefillah, but also in the discipline and in the history of people, rabbis, that meditation was a central part of their life. Zach, you want to read text number 2?
Meditative prayer. We must approach prayer with reverence. The early pious sages would pause in thought for 1 hour so that they could focus their hearts on God and only then pray.
Yeah, there's more explanation. There's more details on how the meditation worked, but this was part of the culture. This was part of the discipline that people had. Actually, the Talmud goes on and asks, like, they wait before. It says that they meditated for an hour before praying. It says that it took an hour to pray, and then it says that they kind of like unwind or like applied all that meditation for an hour after. So it comes out that prayer services took them 3 hours. Now multiply that by 3, because each day we pray 3 times. So the morning prayer, evening prayer, and the night prayer. So multiply that by 3. Suddenly, these rabbis were taking 9 hours to pray. So they ask, like, if you take 9 hours to pray, like, how do you have a life? Like, don't you have a job? Don't you have to provide for your family? It's like, what's the rest of the time? So the Torah, the commentaries say, because since they had such a high level of spirituality, so then their income was blessed, in the sense that they didn't have to do so much. They did one trade, they invested on one thing, and the stock really skyrocketed. It worked out for them. But the point is, yeah, you have to be meditating for 9 hours. I'm not sure if that's so nice. Must be really hard. But anyway, the point is that the meditation was part of the culture, is part of us as Jews. This belongs to us, and that's a big shift that we have to come to terms with. That meditation is really a Jewish practice. So, page number 6. Figure number 2, it says we're going to skip a little bit, not anything that, just going to make sure to kind of like finish on time. But this is the 3 types of meditations that there is in Judaism, and we're going to start focusing on the lower one. So we're going to read through them. We're going to explore the top 2. We're going to explore later on in the other classes, and now we're going to explore the lower one. So we have the seclusion or hitbodedut type of meditation, which is transcendence meditation, and then we have hisbonenus, which is contemplation, and then what we're going to tackle this class is mindful awareness or intention meditation. That is more, I would say, more technical. I would say it's like more like a quick result. It's a quick meditation that brings a quick result. I don't think the nature of meditation is not quick. It's usually takes time. But anyways, from the three, this is like the ones that is like the most practical for to have an immediate result. So the Jewish relaxation response. Amanda, you want to read? Page number 7.
Jewish meditation is primarily focused on providing religious depth, but it also offers the tools to healthier living. We all struggle with negative feelings and experiences, such as anxiety, anger, and self-doubt. Judaism insists that we can overcome these unwanted experiences, and it is eager to offer effective methods of achieving that goal.
Yes. So although the Jewish meditation or the meditation according to Judaism is not about taking away the stress or the negativity. We're not combating. Jewish meditation doesn't combat directly whatever negative feelings we're having. It's more about connecting and being stronger in our own identity. Then automatically all the rest will go away. As we get stronger and healthier in our own organism, so then whatever disease or outside threats automatically go away. And that's going to be that is Jewish meditation, is connecting and becoming more grounded in who you are. So, number 8. Sorry, I want to read. Text number 3.
The Jewish relaxation response. Jewish meditation is primarily focused...
Page 8.
Oh, sorry. As you approach the battle, the Kohen shall come near and speak to the people. He shall say to them, "Hear, Israel, today you are approaching the battle against your enemies. Do not be discouraged. Do not be afraid. Do not be alarmed or terrified because of them."
I don't know if you guys saw that video of this lady going to the psychologist and pouring her heart and like all the stress that she has and like all the feelings that she has, and then the psychologist is like, 2 words. Listen very carefully. She takes a pen and paper and says, "Stop it." Just stop it. Done with all of that. Stop it. Powerful, because the question is like, are we in control? Like, are we able to do we have any autonomy in our feelings and our mind? I mean, we have a mind, of course, and we have feelings, but do we have any autonomy? Do we have any control in how that mind works and how those feelings actually express? Or this is totally up to chance and whatever happens to come to us in life, that's how we're going to react, and those are the feelings. And that's why we always trying to make ourselves feel better. So that's why we're trying to adjust the external environment, so then we feel better instead of being secure and having the integrity within the inside, or the autonomy or the control within the inside, for our mind and our emotion to really be aligned and work. So a lot of the things that you guys mentioned before, the reasons why to meditate, this is where it starts, if we have that ability at all. So the Kohen, he goes to war and he says, "Don't be afraid." The question is is the psychologist saying stop it, or the Kohen saying don't be afraid effective? So from this we see, from the fact that the Torah says that the Kohen used to say to that, is that it was effective, because we do have inherently the ability to really control our mind and control our emotions. And that parting point, or knowing that we are in control, instead of thinking that everything is up to chance or the way it happens to us, gives us the frame of work where to start working from. What's our starting point? So our starting point is we are in control over the flow of our mind and our emotion. Now we have to understand how that flow works to know how to adjust it. But at the end of the day, we are in control. Okay, number 9. And hence that's why the Kohen used to say, "Do not be afraid." Or also we say in the Shema, we say "Ve'ahavta," says that you will love God, or you should love God. Same question applies. How can you command someone to love? Love is an emotion. So unless we do have the power to somehow affect that, there would be no commandment. That is not saying love someone unless we have the power to make that happen. The same way as we have the power to light Shabbos candles, we have also the power to love God. Now, it might not be the same way. This might require a different type of work. This is mental work. It's more inner work. But nevertheless, the ability, we have the ability. Okay, 9. Okay, section number 4. Page number 9. Yeah.
The Kabbalah of consciousness. Key to appreciating the mindfulness practice presented in this study is awareness of the spiritual technology that makes it tick. That mechanism can be discovered only by peeking beneath the hood of our souls. Human souls are equipped with the intellect first and emotions second. We therefore process experiences in that precise order. It is our cognitive judgment that triggers our emotions. This soul process operates the platform of 3 soul garments, 3 distinct modes of active consciousness that the soul dons for the sake of processing and interacting with the entities and experiences beyond itself in this world.
Yeah, so if you move to the next page, what set over here basically is, we'll read it from the outside and then we'll go through the sources and the inside. And that is, number 1, you have to understand the human soul. You have to understand how we are built and what's the flow of our cognitive and our thinking and our emotions, and then we're able to manage those. But if you don't know where to look or what to pay attention to, it will be much harder. So this soul map, in page 10 we see a soul map. Soul map is like the character traits of a soul. Every soul every person has this 10 character traits and comes from, starting from Chokhmah all the way up to the right, top right, Binah, top left, and that. They translate this as wisdom, understanding, and knowledge. And then we have the 7 emotional ones, which is kindness or love, fear, compassion, ambition, humility, connection, and receptiveness. So we see it also, on the right side, we have the 3 intellectual ones, or the 3 intellectual character traits that the soul has, and then the 7 emotional, or the 7 emotion character traits that the soul has. And the top 3 are the ones that control, or that decide, or that affect the bottom 7. Depending on the level of intensity of the first 3 of the cognitive ones, those are the ones that affect the emotional ones. Now, these 10 character traits, they need somehow to express themselves. Although they are there, and they're there all the time, but nevertheless, not necessarily, you'll see these emotions or this character traits being displayed. In order for this to be displayed, so the soul needs a body, and a body has the 3, what is called just 3 garments. And those garments, we'll see it in page number 11, is the thinking, speaking, and doing. So thinking is the ability to entertain or to analyze or develop thoughts. People might have the ability or all these character traits in the soul, but unless they think about it and they pay attention to it, so those are not going to be expressed. Not only that thinking is one way of expressing these ideas, but then you could speak about something, or you could act on any of these emotions. And all of this 10, they express themselves with one of these 3 garments: by thinking, by speaking, or by doing. You can see if someone is angry or being kind, the way they talk, the way they act, and those are the most visual ones. Those are the most external ones. But then you have the thought, which is something that is more personal, because not necessarily people know what you're thinking. So the way it works is that by thinking, you give the oxygen, or you give the ability for the first 3, for the cognitive powers to develop or to exist, and that affects the way you feel. So suddenly, being meditation and being mindful, the purpose of it is not just for the sake of meditating itself, or in better words, it's not only for the sake of escaping or trying to go run away from yourself. And a lot of times that might be the experience with non-Jewish meditation is maybe like, focusing on the yoga mat and focusing on the breathing and really present, really zooming in, really so much that you forget about work, and you're not thinking about work, you're not thinking about family, you're really being present. So that is one type for this purpose, is one type of escaping. This type of meditations that we're talking, the Jewish meditations, is for the purpose of affecting some change. So meditating is actually for the purpose of affecting a change in the way that we feel. So if our mind has the right thoughts and positive thoughts, so then our feeling will follow along. So kind of like for the feelings, you could either force it. There's a way to force the feelings. And that's why they say that, if someone is in a bad mood, just start dancing. And you'll start dancing, and you'll force yourself to be in a happier, better mood. Well, as you mentioned, right? You could go outside, and now like you could just take that action, and you force that feeling to follow along. And it's actually I think it's a whole. Well, you could tell me it's a psychological discipline, no, of doing the thing, and then the emotions will follow. Is it?
Sounds good.
Sounds right. Okay. So it's like that the action forces the feelings. But what we're talking about here is where the meditation that gives birth, or that creates those feelings in the first place, kind of like going to the source of the feelings, where they're coming from, instead of trying to shape them with the action. So we'll see what the Tanya has to say about this, about our ability to control ourselves, and the way that our emotions and our intellect combine or play together or align together. Text number 4.
The human soul is divided into 2 categories: intelligence and emotion. The intellectual facilities, namely chokhmah, wisdom, binah, understanding, and da'at, knowledge, are referred to as the mothers and the source of the emotions, for the emotions are the offspring of the intelligence.
Yeah, it's basically, the mother gives birth to children. Same case as by us. Our emotions, our intellect gives birth to our emotions. And according to our intellect, that's the emotions are going to follow. That's why it's very important to always have positive thoughts. Not only because, thinking positive is the right thing to do, but the positive thoughts is what dictate the way that you feel. There's a big movement of learning a book that is dedicated to not gossiping. And there's a lot of communities that really make a focus of learning that book of not gossiping. Chofetz Chaim, yeah. Shmiras Halashon, which means the guarding of your tongue. Now, in the Chabad circles, there's not really a focus on that particular type of study. It's great to learn it, but the focus is not really over there, in the guarding the tongue and not speaking bad about someone. Not because, God forbid, you could talk bad about someone, but the talking is actually the second step. Meaning, you have to have thoughts, and after those thoughts comes the speech. What in Chabad circles the focus is, why are you having the thoughts in the first place? Like, is it okay it's bad to not talk about someone. It's bad to talk negative about someone, but is it okay to think about it? I don't want to tell you what that guy did. You can think about it and judge him in your mind, but you're never going to say it. In the Chabad circles, the focus was, why you're even thinking about that person negatively. Your mind should be the first. You should be focusing on where everything starts from, and that is in the mind. And that should, if the mind and if the discipline is in place, in our minds we have a little bit of control at least a little bit of mindfulness and awareness that we're actually thinking, and our thought actually creates the judgment, and those emotions follow. So if we have that awareness, so we'll be dealing with our thoughts instead of like with our feelings. And that, although that talks about other people, in Shmina Salosh, in this specific book, talks about speaking or thinking negatively about someone else. But this really talks to us, because I think that worst negative talk, we do it to ourselves all the time. Like, I'm not worthy, I'm not this, I'm not that, I haven't tried enough, I'm lazy. Like, all the negative loop that it's in our heads, that is negative thoughts also. And that is something that should be tackled from the beginning. You should not have any negative thoughts. And that's the beginning of meditation, at least to have the awareness of the flow of our conscious and our feelings, of like how things work. So we could like tackle from the beginning and not have to like from the end, but rather we change all the way at the beginning the way we think, and automatically everything changes in the way that we feel. Okay, text number 5, or section number 5.
Intentional thinking.
Yeah.
Being aware of the process that produced our negative feelings permits us to identify methods of taming them. Our simplest method is to pull out the rug from under these feelings by shifting our thoughts to something positive. Firstly, depriving our intellectual attention of negativity prevents our swirling mental judgments from developing funnel clouds of negative emotion. Secondly, we can actively insert a positive focus in its place, feeding positivity to our intellectual palates to produce offspring of pleasantly positive emotions.
Yeah, continue. Text number 5.
You are in control. The mind naturally controls the heart. Humans were created from birth with the ability to exercise willpower to control the drives of our hearts, so that they not be expressed by our behavior, speech, or thought. We are able to divert our attention completely from things our hearts crave to something entirely different.
Yeah, so this is not something that we have to attain. It's not like we need to get a third hand or a third arm in order to get this accomplished. We have this in our own nature. The nature of a human being is that the mind controls the emotions. We sadly forgot on the way how to use it at all, or if to use it at all. But naturally, this is the way it works. We have to shift attention to that mind. And as we see from a letter of that the fifth Lubavitcher Rebbe wrote to, I think it was one of his in-laws, text number 6. Come on there, Rebbe.
Mm-hmm. Dissolving anxiety by distraction. Even if we are emotionally afraid, we are able to divorce our thought, speech, and action from that emotion. The essential thing is not to contemplate or discuss the fear at all, but to do the perfect opposite. Immediately upon letting go of the thought entirely, the fear will dissolve on its own. At the very least, it will become instantly dormant and not felt in the body. Then, over the course of several days, it will completely dissolve, to the point that it will not enter our mind at all. Removal of the thought leads to dissipation of the fear, because emotions are entirely reliant upon intellectual focus, for their existence, which requires active thought. Therefore, by removing our thought from the matter, the intellectual power is withdrawn from the emotion, with the result that the emotion ceases to be activated. It is worth training yourself to remove all negativity, for we must rid ourselves from all fear, including justifiable fear, as I wrote. This is certainly true in your case, where there is nothing to worry about whatsoever, thank God, in terms of your health and financial situation.
Yeah, so this is the practical advice, or this is the first step when it comes to Jewish meditation, or the most mechanical, effective when it comes to Jewish meditation, is that shifting the way you think. And of course, at the time is not when someone is going through a challenge is not easy. It's not easy to just stop thinking about it. But nevertheless, knowing that if I keep thinking about this, my emotions are not going to change. This is the first step to it all changing and turning into Jewish meditation. And text number 7, we'll see that we're not able to really stop thinking. Thought is one of those traits that we have that they're just constant. They're flowing all the time. We cannot turn our brains off. But what we could do is decide where our brain focuses. There's a footnote in the back that talks about like the connection between why breathing also has the benefits of meditating. You can read it, but the punchline is that there's two things that happen to us all the time, and sleeping or being awake, and that is thinking and breathing. We do it all the time. Sometimes we're aware of it, and sometimes not. So a lot of people, when they do breath works, what they're basically doing is paying attention to those areas that we are constantly doing all the time, but we really don't. We take it for granted, and the meditations or the thoughts that we have, it's also one of those areas in life where at times we take it for granted, or we're just like flowing all the time. And suddenly pausing and just paying attention to the breathing, or paying attention to like there is myself, and there is a way that I think, and the flow that goes in my mind and in my body, my emotions. That is the first step to be able to change the way we feel. So that's text number 7, positive distractions. Who was reading? Yeah.
The primary method of removing worrying thoughts from your mind is by redirecting your mind toward other matters. You can replace them with thoughts of necessary material matters that bring you joy, and you can contemplate God's Torah that delights the heart. The latter is best achieved through creating a fixed schedule of daily Torah study, which is particularly effective with a study partner.
So one of the benefits of learning Torah, aside of the benefit of gaining knowledge, but now you have like an arsenal of thoughts that you could focus on. Suddenly, instead of like trying to find a thought that or to entertain a thought, a positive thought, you have an archive of positive thoughts to entertain, of ideas. It should be something that you like and something that you're passionate about that you could find in Torah. But learning that's what will make you have the ability to really shift the thoughts for whatever it is into something that is positive, that will automatically change the whole cycle of emotions and cognitive, that will change for the better. So this is kind of like in our own body, in our own insides, the way that very briefly, the way that our soul, the build of our soul, and the way that our mind and our emotions work together. Now this is going to kind of like step outside of ourselves. When positive thoughts not only affect change in our own, in ourselves, but actually affects change outside of ourselves. So, do you guys know what Mazal Tov means? What's Mazal Tov?
Congratulations. Good flow.
Flow, okay. Mazal Tov is translated congratulations. That's what we all know it, and we all use it all the time. Congratulations. But if we translate it, is nozel, mazal, which means nozel, which means drop, and tov, which means good. It's basically saying you should have from above dripping good. So if someone achieves a milestone, we say mazal tov. But mistakes. This comes a little bit next paragraph. But anyway, we'll come back to this point. Section number 6, the power of positivity.
Positive meditation is more than a psychological life hack. The mystics reveal that thinking positively actually shifts reality. Our thoughts place us into a mental space that allows us to align with a specific flow of divine energy and channel it into our world. Meditating on something positive directs a positive flow of energy, which has a positive impact on reality.
Continue, text number 8.
Real impact. To the contrary, you should speak and act in a manner that projects positivity as described above, so that these positive emotions will be established within you. In this way, a spirit of joy and good-heartedness will descend upon you from above. I say this on the basis of a teaching I received from my holy grandfather of blessed memory, who shared an insight, authored by Rabbi Dovber, the Maggid of
Mezrich.
Into the verse, like a person's appearance upon it from above.
Yeah, continue.
The Maggid would read the verse this way: according to the feelings a person displays down here in this world, like a person's appearance, so is the nature of that which rests upon the person from above, upon it from above. In light of this teaching, my grandfather, Rabbi Shanir Zalman of Lady, did not permit me to sing a melancholy tune during the evening prayer. After I had completed the prayer, he explained his reasoning for objecting to my choice of melody, and shared the above insight in the name of the Maggid of blessed memory.
So basically, what Kabbalah teaches is that God mimics us. The way that we show up, God mimics the same way. A lot of times you see the guy that is positive, he ends up, having the luck. And, you could think it's like a catch-22. It's like, is he having luck or he's just being positive? And but according to Chassidus, according to Kabbalah, it's like, no, when God mimics your ways. So if you behave positively, if you are happy, so then God kind of provides or shows up to you in the same way. So that's why over here he was telling, don't sing a melancholy tune. Don't sing a tune that is sad. Sing something that is happy, because we want to reflect from above the same energy. And that's why we say Mazal Tov. It's like we want to wish someone that you should have that same dripping or that same energy reflected upon you from above. So we see that having positive thoughts not only affects our own body, but it also affects our surrounding. That suddenly we align with what energy in the world with the positive energy. We don't align with the negative energy, although two people might having the same experience, but one has a positive experience, one has a negative experience, and that's not only in their own mind, but the reality was created by their thoughts. By aligning themselves with this energy of God and the energy that God created the world, that is the power of thought. So not only it creates in our own persona, but actually our surrounding also is kind of defined by the way that we think. And this is very powerful, the ability and the power that we have as human beings to kind of like set the tone for our surroundings. And instead of thinking that like life happens to us, we actually have the power to influence our surroundings. Okay, balanced world. We'll see this, how it expresses according to the Zohar. But that's the main point. Text number 9.
This is analogous to a king who had empty glasses. The king told himself, if I pour hot water in them, they will burst. If I pour freezing water in them, they will crack. What did the king do? He mixed hot water with frigid water and poured the blend into the glasses. Similarly, God said, if I create the world with the attribute of compassion alone, people will be unconcerned with the consequences of their actions. If I use the attribute of judgment alone, the world will not survive, the judgment of honest scrutiny. Rather, I will create it with a blend of the attributes of judgment and the attribute of compassion, and I hope that it will endure.
So on this, the way that God created the world, the Zohar says. So we see that basically the creation of the world, they have the compassion energy that is within the world, and that also, when it says that God blended both energies, doesn't mean that they cease to being, but that means that they're both energies together. So now we have the ability to connect with either compassion or with, what's the other word? Judgment and compassion. That's kind of up to us. If we align ourselves and if we create positive thoughts, we align ourselves with compassion, with kindness. If we have negative thoughts, we attract that different energy. So we have the power to set the tone for our surrounding as well. As you see in the Zohar, text number 10.
Come and observe. Our world is always ready to receive the spiritual flow that emanates from above. The upper world provides in accordance with the emotional state below in this world. If the state below is joyous, then correspondingly abundance flows from above.
I'm so sorry.
But if the state below is one of sadness, then correspondingly the flow of blessing is constricted. We are therefore directed, serve God with joy, because mortal joy elicits corresponding supernal joy.
Yeah, so basically serving God with joy, it's the solution. It's not forcing. It's not saying, although my life is miserable, I'm going to serve life. I'm going to serve God with joy. But if your life is miserable, that's the reason why you should serve God with joy. It's why you should be having or adopting this joyous approach and of course might be hard, might be challenging, but to attract positivity and joy, we have to act in that way. And our actions and our thoughts, the way we think, it's the way that defines our emotions. So positive thoughts, the positive emotions elicit joy, and the joy attracts joy. So we see how everything starts from the meditation, starts from the mind. Text number 11. Take it away, Amanda.
You are what you think. The psalmist says that one who trusts in God will be enveloped in kindness. We can infer the reverse as well. One who is constantly anxious of punishment associates themselves with strict judgment that can lead to negative consequences. God forbid. In line with the verse, their fears I will bring to them. We become attached to whatever we contemplate. If we contemplate matters associated with severity, we become attached to judgment. If we trust in God's kindness, our souls will become attached to that kindness, and we will indeed be enveloped in kindness.
So that's the first step. Jewish meditation, it's a positive thoughts. Positive thoughts create positive feelings attract positive energy. And that's the kavanah, that's the lowest or most technical way when it comes to Jewish meditation. And there's more to look. There's in text on in page number 22, we find many of the other practices nowadays in therapists that kind of like follow this same idea, that was since the time of the Torah was given. But at the end of the day, it's us knowing that meditation is something that we should be striving for. It's something that we should be looking after, and is something that we should start practicing. It's a muscle. We have it. We have the content again at the back in page 30, in page 29. You should go through it. This is the morning blessings that we say every day, and this is the great way to start that tefillah, to start that discipline of praying. We could start, with one tefillah. Take one of the blessings and be mindful and kind of like focus your attention and your mind towards it, and hopefully that will give you that, set the day or set the energy for the rest of the day, instead of reacting to whatever news we read or whatever happens to us in the workplace. We set the intention from the beginning of the day, and that's the first step, to have meditation, to connect with meditation. And meditation is a discipline, so it's not a one thing, one time. It's called the avodat tefillah, the discipline of praying. So we can start small, but it's a lifelong journey for us as Jews. So l'chaim, everyone, and start meditating.
So meditation here is all about thought, whereas like the Eastern is about removing thought, really.
Yes, so Jewish meditation is really about, we'll see more in the next classes, but a lot of the Eastern meditations are all about trying to be as secluded as possible and trying to remove any of your, or kind of like zooming in as much as possible that you forget that there's like no space for anything else. Jewish meditation is the total opposite. You zoom out as much as possible, that suddenly you see how the whole world is just in unison and is one big work of God. That's why a lot of the prayers, a lot of the Psalms, King David talks about not nature, talks about the stars and the galaxies, and because the type of Jewish meditation is that we need to encompass and find the harmony within everything instead of trying to isolate yourself and finding that peace. There is a certain peace in being isolated because you're not bombarded with the stress or anything that attacks you. But at the end of the day, we've been created and we're in this world not to leave the world. If we're alive, it's because we have an impact to this world. We're here on a mission, and there's an impact that needs to happen. And the meditation, for the Jewish meditation, we'll later see the other types of meditations that are a little bit more zooming out. The purpose of it is to suddenly see how everything in our life actually works in harmony. And like our work and the people that we meet and the Coke that I bought and the sport that I play, like all of that works in harmony. And certainly that brings the result is that brings God, not doesn't remove yourself and makes you a holy person, but actually infuses you in the society, like becoming almost like Joseph, who suddenly in society, in the highest power, he was able to see the harmony that comes with all the challenges that come around, and not trying to escape, but rather trying to make sense out of it. That is real Jewish. That is, we'll see later, but that is the point of Jewish meditation, where we find a harmony within everything instead of trying to escape from everything. So stay tuned. But yeah, I would highly suggest to go through the morning blessings, take one, and at least maybe 5 minutes, 5 minutes each morning. For guys who wrap tefillin, that's the time. Women who don't have the need to wrap tefillin, to do many of the other meditations. But meditating is not lost, and we need to just reconnect with it. Okay. Pleasure.
So next week we can